I have orders for 2 more cords of firewood. These are customers from last year. Thing about firewood, if people have a good experience buying firewood from you, there's a good chance they'll keep buying from you year after year. I've had times in my life where I've been in the firewood business. There are a lot of things I've learned about the business. One of the things I've learned is if other businesses tried to run their business the way a lot of people try to run their firewood business, those businesses would quickly go out of business. That's a lot of business right there. I got this loaded. I have some time before I need to go into town, deliver this. We'll go for a little walk. I'll tell you about it. Over the years, I've talked to a lot of firewood customers. I've heard a lot of the complaints they've had about past firewood suppliers. As I've looked through a lot of the advertisements firewood cutters place to try to sell their firewood, I see a lot of the mistakes they're making. And when I see what they're doing, I can see why they're probably not only struggling in the firewood business, but probably in life in general. I'll start out with some of the basics, things that are probably obvious to most of you. Hopefully in this first part, most of you will be thinking, duh. Hopefully all of you will. Then we'll get a little bit deeper into some things that might not be so obvious. Maybe in that part of the video, there'll be something worth listening to. One of the most obvious ones is they don't bring the customer what they say they're going to bring them. One of the basics of business is deliver to the customer what you tell the customer you're going to deliver. Instead of bringing the customer what they ordered, what they said they were going to bring them, they bring them something that's different than that. But they still expect the customer to stick to their part of the deal and pay them the amount they agreed, even though they didn't get what they ordered. One of the common examples is the seller tells the buyer the wood is dry and ready to burn. But when the customer tries to light it, they struggle to get it to burn. When they do, water and water vapor start shooting out the ends of the pieces. That is the opposite of dry and ready to burn. One of the most common complaints I hear is the customer orders a cord or whatever amount they order. The seller assures them they're going to bring them the full amount. But when the seller shows up with the wood, it's less wood than what they said they were going to bring. If you don't bring the customer the amount of wood you said you're going to bring them, that is the opposite of bringing them the amount of wood you said you're going to bring them. Basic life skills. Hopefully nobody is learning anything right now. Hopefully this is wasting your time. But it appears there are a lot of woodcutters who need to learn these basic life skills, or learn that basic life skills also need to transfer to their firewood business. When I hear the customer's story of what happened, like the firewood cutter showed up with a short bed Toyota pickup to deliver a cord of hardwood, I know it's not just a matter of customers don't know what a cord is. Their stories tell me there's more to it than that. If you're going to be in the firewood business, I think it's a really good idea to learn how to measure a full cord or whatever unit of measurement you're selling wood in. Another common complaint I hear, they don't show up when they say they're going to show up, or they don't show up at all. If you tell someone you're going to show up at a certain time and you show up at some other time, or you don't show up at all, that is the opposite of showing up when you say you will. I'm not talking about showing up a few minutes late or even a half hour late. I'm talking about showing up days or weeks later, or not even at all. Yeah, things do come up, but when you wait a week to finally call them, tell them your story about how your truck broke, your dog got sick, your grandma died, that is the opposite of a lot of things. Again, I hope nobody's learning anything here. I'm guessing most of you aren't. I'm guessing for most of you, this is a waste of time. Another common complaint, they show up to deliver the firewood, drinking beer or reeking of alcohol, drinking and driving. If you're delivering firewood to the type of person who would show up to a business transaction, drinking beer and smelling like alcohol, that's fine. But for most people, it's going to be a big turnoff, especially the type of people who can pay higher prices for firewood. And when you throw your empty beer cans into their bushes when you think they're not looking, that's just not good business. As a firewood seller, your agenda is probably to sell your firewood and get money for it. But if you want to be successful in business, you have to understand your customer has a different agenda than you do. Your customer's agenda is most likely to get the product they want and to have a good experience getting that product. If your main focus is on selling your firewood and getting money for it, instead of focusing on the customer's agenda, that will work for some transaction, but you're probably going to struggle in business. And for those who try to run the rest of their life that way too, there's a good chance they're probably struggling with that too. Another way to stand out from the bad experiences they've had with other wood sellers: be kind, be respectful, be presentable. Now, be presentable doesn't mean wear a suit and tie. I think most customers would expect woodcutters to be somewhat dirty, wearing work clothes. But if you reek, or when you open your truck door, a bunch of garbage comes out and falls into their driveway, that's going to put them off. Or if you shake their hand with a sticky, dirty hand and give them thoughts about what you might have been doing in the woods and not washed your hands afterward, that is not an example of giving the customer a good experience. People like to do business with people who they like and trust. I've seen a lot of firewood advertisements where they say something like, "I require you give me cash before I unload the wood." Right off the bat, you're communicating to them you don't trust them. By doing that, you are communicating to the potential customer you have expectations this could be a potentially hostile transaction. Do you think that makes the customer feel like doing business with you is going to be a good experience for them? In all my years, I have never had a customer not pay me after I unloaded the firewood. Not once. But firewood sellers do have a bad reputation for not being trustworthy. I already described a lot of that in this video. Customers have a lot of good reasons not to trust firewood sellers. So now you, the firewood seller, are asking the customer who has a reputation of being trustworthy to carry the burden of trust. Doing business with someone whose industry has a reputation of not being trustworthy. But my guess is a lot of the people who put things like that in their ad have probably had problems with customers not paying them for what they brought them. If woodcutters would bring people what they ordered, if they would bring people what they said they would bring, I think woodcutters would not be having this problem of people not wanting to pay them for bringing them something that isn't what they ordered. When I always bring people what I say I'm going to bring them, I've never had a problem with them not wanting to pay me for it. When you put something like that in your ad, what you're doing is you're telling the customer you are probably someone who has had bad experiences with your customers. Another thing I see in people's firewood ads all the time: spell words correctly. Use complete sentences. Don't write your ads in cryptic shorthand that makes the potential customers have to work too hard to figure out what you're trying to write. Just common business practices that some firewood sellers seem to think they are exempt from. Whether you like it or not, from the time someone reads your ad through the whole transaction, people are going to judge you by the way you present yourself. If you present yourself as someone who can't write, someone who can't spell, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage in business. You are already at a disadvantage by being in the firewood business, being in an industry where people already have a distrust for firewood cutters, and for good reason, based on their past experience with firewood sellers. If you write your ad in a way that makes you sound questionable, you're just giving them more fuel for mistrust. We, the sellers, are the ones who are choosing to do business in an industry that already has a bad reputation. I think it's up to us to do the little things to try to earn people's trust. If you spell cord, C-H-O-R-D, people know that's not how you spell cord of wood. C-H-O-R-D is a musical compilation of notes, and it has some other meaning, but cord of wood is C-O-R-D. When you spell it C-H-O-R-D, what you're telling a customer, especially an affluent customer who probably has the means to pay more for firewood, is here's a person who's in business and they don't even know how to spell the four-letter word that is the basic unit of measurement for their business. These things may seem silly and petty, but most businesses make an effort to learn how to spell the words of their business, and in their advertisements, they're going to spell the words correctly. They're going to make sure they do. And when you're the person who does not follow these basic business principles, it just gives people more reason to question you. Why is this person not following basic business principles? If you are one of the people who's having a reaction right now to what I just said, if you are thinking about how petty that is and how stupid that is, maybe thinking, I'm going to spell cord however I want to spell cord. Keep in mind, while you are thinking about how petty your customers might be, while you are questioning their reasons for judging you, other people who are successful in business are not thinking about those things. Successful people are usually busy not having reactions to things like that. Instead, they're usually busy trying to provide customers with the products they want, giving them a good experience in getting those products. This channel has typically been more focused on the forestry and the production side of things, but if there's a lot of interest in this video, I could do more videos about the sales and the business side of things. I have had successes in the forest products business as well as other business. If you want to hear more about the business side of things, sales, hit the like button. If a video gets an unusually high percentage of likes, that lets me know people like that kind of content. If you've gotten through this whole video and you think the main point of this video is how to sell firewood or how to sell anything, I think you've missed the point of the video.